Hello, everyone. First of all, I'm so honored that you all of you took time today to be here for me. I appreciate your support and your interest. I titled my presentation Action Learning from Coast to Coast, from Mountaintop to Inner City and Beyond. And that's what it says on the first slide of the presentation. The way I'm going to work with the technology here is I'm going to attempt to remember to cue you on I'm going to say next or next slide each time to help you to move through the slides as I move through my presentation. I apologize if in advance I noticed that when I uploaded my original PowerPoint presentation to the Google Docs, there's some quality that seems to get lost in the photos, but I think you'll still get the idea. The main part of the presentation is in the narrative, and this is a accounting of my learning journey since I started Gaia, and this cycle has actually taken me a little over 2 years. So it's been a very interesting process and an interesting journey, and I'm excited to share it with you. So I'm going to say next slide. My learning journey began in Laguna Beach, where I was living with my wife Claudia when I first started to explore learning possibilities as far as looking around at how to gain some new skills. We were very involved with our Laguna Beach Transition Town. In fact, we were there when the Transition Town Initiative Transition Laguna was actually unleashed. And for any of you that aren't familiar with the Transition Town Initiative, it's an international movement now that started in the UK, and it's growing quite rapidly, and it's really an initiative that was designed to help communities make a smooth transition and begin to plan for the next steps moving from petroleum-based economy and culture and economics to what might be next. To start a conversation about that, to engage in looking at the challenges based on food, water, shelter, waste, transportation, these kind of things. And my wife and I became very involved in the food group. And in the first year, we helped to plant and install over 40 gardens within our community. And in the process, we made some very wonderful friends, and really had a really strong connection with our community. And when I talk about the transition movement with other people since I left Laguna, I often stress that this is one of the most powerful benefits of a transition town movement is the way that it reconnects people with the sources of their food, their energy, and most importantly with each other. It was here that I began to explore how to improve some of my skills and look at potential career change, and I came across Gaia University. Next slide. My learning journey began in Laguna Beach, where I was living with my wife Claudia when I first started to explore learning possibilities as far as looking around at how to gain some new skills. We were very involved with our Laguna Beach Transition Town. In fact, we were there when the Transition Town Initiative Transition Laguna was actually unleashed. And for any of you that aren't familiar with the Transition Town Initiative, it's an international movement now that started in the UK, and it's growing quite rapidly, and it's really an initiative that was designed to help communities make a smooth transition and begin to plan for the next steps moving from petroleum-based economy and culture and economics to what might be next. To start a conversation about that, to engage in looking at the challenges based on food, water, shelter, waste, transportation, these kind of things. And my wife and I became very involved in the food group. And in the first year, we helped to plant and install over 40 gardens within our community. And in the process, we made some very wonderful friends, and really had a really strong connection with our community. And when I talk about the transition movement with other people since I've left Laguna, I often stress that this is one of the most powerful benefits of a transition town movement, is the way that it reconnects people with the sources of their food, their energy, and most importantly with each other. It was here that I began to explore how to improve some of my skills and look at potential career change. And I came across Gaia University. Next slide. I discovered Gaia University, and I was very interested because one of the things that I liked about Gaia is it gave someone like myself, who did not do a conventional, traditional college experience, an opportunity to document my life skills, career experience, in lieu of a bachelor's degree as a prerequisite to the master's program. And so one of the first requirements I had to do was to actually do just that. I had to go back and look at my life. At the time I started this, I was 55, and I had a fair amount of life experience, as you can imagine. I had also had several different careers, and I found that this first, just applying for the program became a very valuable exercise for me. And later on, when I began the program and proceeded to produce my output packet 1A, which was the life and career review, this initial exercise became a good outline for me as I became more just fine-tuned that. And once again, this was really, really valuable to see, for me to sit back and look at the skills that I had attained along the way in my life, the life experiences, and begin to look at how I might take what I had developed and how would I arrange my life, what skills would I like to attain to move forward in my life. Which took me to the next output packet 1B, which was my learning intentions of pathway design, and allowed me to start to do this, to say, what do I want to do? And one of the things, I had a strong background in building and design. I had experience in the healing arts. I had been a licensed massage therapist, had done lots and lots of personal growth, and been a seminar teacher and other things. And what did I want to do with this? How could I organize this in a way that would lead into even more meaningful right livelihood and help me to make a difference in the world? Next slide. Along my journey, after deciding to enroll in the Gaia program, I attended a permaculture convergence in Northern California at RDI. And I camped out there for a couple of days with some good friends of mine, Jeff and Elise Higley, there's a photo of the two of them on the right. And I had been working with them in the food group, and we had become very good friends. Jeff and I had talked a couple times about how we might collaborate on projects. We talked about creating a consulting permaculture design company together. And in the meantime, Jeff and Elise had connected up with a financial business partner and had bought 166 acres up in the southern Oregon mountains. And they called this land Terra Vita Springs. And they had just returned to the permaculture convergence in July of 2011, and we're very excited. And as it all turned out, they offered me an opportunity to come up and help them use my building skills to renovate some of the old buildings and start to design and build some of the new things that they needed to be done. So next slide. Some of the things that we got to engage in, some of the projects, were building a geodesic dome greenhouse. We put in an apiary. We got to utilize some natural building in renovating an old workshop. this geodesic dome that you're looking at in this picture was quite an interesting project. It was a really challenging opportunity for me to use my building skills in a new way. I was responsible for building and designing the foundation to support this, which was a full solid concrete foundation. It goes 2 feet below the ground level, and it had to be built very, very accurately with 15 sides to match up with the greenhouse kit that had been ordered. This picture was taken one day, one day after we completed the greenhouse. So we had done the foundation work. We raced down to our orientation week at RDI, and we came back and rushed to get this greenhouse done before the snow hit. We made it. And in this next spring, we installed 30 beehives, and both Jeff and I enrolled in a Master Beekeepers program with the University of Oregon. I had a mentor and had 2 hives of my own, and I really enjoyed learning about beekeeping, keeping hives. I built a couple of top bar, horizontal top bar hives, and so I worked with that as well as a traditional Langstroth hive and learned a lot about bees. The picture in the bottom left-hand corner shows us a group of us applying natural clay plaster to one of the walls inside the Hobart House, which was one of the buildings at Terra Vita Springs. Next slide. During this process, I began to work on my output packet 2. And based on the advice of my advisor Nala, who right from the beginning suggested that I create a website to grow into with both my my learning journey and my professional work, I decided to focus on my output packet 2 as my demonstration of building and designing this website. I hired a consultant, used some of my learning budget from the Gaia program, who helped me come up with some of the artistic design. And then I also hired her to teach me how to manage the website, how to put the content, manage the pages. And I encourage you, if you haven't already, to check out www.thekorucollaborative.com. I continue to add things to it. And next slide. In the fall of 2012, I took time out from my work at Terra Vita, and I attended an Eco-Village Design for Sustainability education course at Findhorn Eco-Village in the northeast of Scotland. Now, I know some of you have heard of Findhorn, some of you know about my trip there. I'd heard of Findhorn for many, many years, and when I first heard of Findhorn, I read the Findhorn book, gosh, 30-some years ago, and I remember reading about the people at Findhorn growing, these super large vegetables, and out of really in a place that was considered worthless land on an old sand spit up in the northeast of Scotland on the North Sea. And they were working with developing a more spiritual connection to the land and utilizing that connection to connect in a deeper way and interact and co-create with nature. And I was really interested because I learned that Findhorn had continued to evolve and develop as a real laboratory, eco-village. People were coming from all over the world to learn there. And I figured after 50 years, they probably figured some things out. And one of the things I was most interested in going there to learn about was what they had learned and what they had developed in terms of their social systems. Because I had already begun to realize that, figuring out how to build a greenhouse, how to grow food, how to install a solar panel, all those kind of things are pretty straightforward. The really, really tricky part it really gets down to is working with people. So I was really excited to learn about some of the social systems, some of the technologies that have emerged in this human eco-village laboratory that would help me become better at working with people, become a better collaborator out in the world. And so I attended it. It was a 4-week program, residential. I got to live at the Findhorn Village. It was from October to November, so I got to see all kinds of weather. And The four modules that this course consisted of were the social module, the environmental module, and the economic module, and the world view. The picture you're looking at is a picture of the living machine, which is, at the time I took this, it was 20 years old, and it was developed to be a natural way to process all the sewage from the eco-village, 300, sometimes 400 people, and it had been working very well for almost 20 years. And these were some of the technologies that had been developed here at Finhorn. Lots of things happened for me here. It turned out that this experience became a very pivotal point in the trajectory of my life. During the economic module, we did an exercise where we were all asked to take a look at the scope of our projects and our work, and how, what was the impact we were having out in the world. And I was thinking about the work I was doing at Theravita, and I was thinking, all the great things I was learning, and I just really enjoyed living in the mountains, and it was something I always thought I would be out in the country, in a beautiful place with lots of space and nature. And one of the statistics that were shared during this week, this economic week, by Jonathan Dawson, who was a former community member at Finhorn and was now teaching at the Schumacher College, was the statistic that showed how many people are living in cities right now on our planet. And it's well over half of the population on the planet is living in cities. And projected that, another 25 years, that's going to be as high as 75% of the world population living in cities. And something about that statistic just really shifted a lot of things for me. And I realized that cities are where a lot of work needs to be done. And that I really also realized that I really wanted to be engaging in projects that had a little larger or a lot larger impact in the world. I wanted to be engaging with other people who were passionate about having a larger impact. And so my vision started to really, really expand. Next slide. I came back to Theravita, and things have been really shifting at Theravita. I wanted to share some things about what I learned about being involved in the process at Theravita. I was there over 12 months working, and a couple of things I learned from my experience were that sometimes having plenty of money to facilitate a project isn't always the best thing. And I also learned that choosing your partners, your collaborators, is a really, really important thing. And for me, finding collaborators and partners that share same values, is way more important than finding people who have lots of money. When I got back to Theravita, things were really starting to deteriorate within the partnership there. The other thing that had happened was I had originally signed up for the project thinking I was going to have a lot more role in the collaboration, the designing of curriculum and other things, and as it turned out, my role became really much more of that of an employee. And for me, I really wanted to be engaged at a much, much deeper level. Meanwhile, on a short trip back to Laguna, I had heard of, while I had gone, a fellow had built a friend of mine knew this guy, Eric Cutter, who built a pretty impressive vertical hydroponic farm in Laguna Canyon, and he asked me to come out and see it, and I came out and I was very impressed, and I spoke with Eric, and just we had a connection, and he said, well, if you want to come back and help me with this, I'm looking for partners. And I started thinking, well, maybe this is the next thing. So I made arrangements I finished up my time, I gave my notice at Theravita, and we actually moved back to Laguna. All this time, my wife Claudia, you have to understand, has been traveling back and forth to New York, where she had maintained her therapy practice the whole time we've been together, which is coming up on 13 years. And she was traveling quite a bit. I went back and worked for 30 days at this vertical farm. I learned a lot about hydroponics and vertical farming. And the other thing I learned was that it really wasn't a good fit with me and Eric. There wasn't, the partnership there was not really going to work. Meanwhile, Claudia had been, I think, very subtly planting hints that, you know, and my daughter, who happened to live in New York too, was saying, you know, Dad, there's a lot of things going on here in New York. A lot of urban farming, lots of things. And so, next slide. March 2013, we cleaned out our storage unit in Laguna Beach, got rid of lots of things. We packed up a moving truck and put our little Kia on a trailer behind the moving truck and drove cross country to Manhattan, where we moved into a 400 square foot apartment. This picture shows you a picture of our apartment building, which is in the East Village of Manhattan, on the Lower East Side, as they say. We're about a block, 2 blocks from the East River. And yeah, imagine that. A lot of people that know me, they want to keep checking in. They want to say, "Hey, Teryl, how you doing, man? Are you doing all right in the city?" And I wanted to just talk a little bit about, you know, how I have managed to go from living in the mountains to living in the city. I told my wife when I met her. My wife is a longtime New Yorker. Grew up in just outside of New York, and spent most of her adult life living in the city as a professional dancer, and then transitioning into muscular therapist. And when we met, I had told her, you know, like I mentioned, I will never, probably ever live in New York City. But here I am, and the reason I'm here is because I made a choice to engage at another level, to start to work on solving some of the problems. And for me, what I'm excited about doing here is, and what I have been doing since I got here, is developing urban food production systems that small to medium scale, that are reproducible and that can be done in lots of places throughout the city by lots of people. Before I move on, I just wanted to share a little bit more about how I've been surviving in the city. We do happen to have a outrigger canoe club in New York City, which is something I've been doing for many, many years, and being able to have access to getting out on the river and paddle has been really, really good, provided a nice balance. We do have a couple of really nice parks nearby, and I've been riding my bicycle a lot, getting around. Suddenly I'm riding my bike more, driving my car less. I had an opportunity to take on some work as a cabinet maker for one of my wife's clients, and it turns out the wood shop that I've been working in is only 6 blocks away. So here I am, having an experience living in a very densely populated city, which I realize is they call it the East Village. They call it a village for a reason. It really is a village. And being able to walk to my job, and then a couple of the jobs we had outside the shop were within blocks. It's been a really neat experience. And riding my bike, I joke with my son. I tell my son Josh, who's in a kind of an extreme sports fanatic. He's an extreme skier, kiteboarder, surfer. He does all these things. Recently, he's taken up paragliding. I tell him I found my new extreme sport, and that is riding my bicycle across town Manhattan. In fact, I'll share a little anecdote on that. I actually one day, the reason I call it an extreme sport is that, as with most extreme sports, when you are engaged in that sport, what's required is that you're fully and completely present, because your survival depends upon it. And riding your bike across Manhattan, it qualifies as an extreme sport for that very reason. One day I was riding my bike across town, and I had what I call my Zen moment living in the city. And what happened was, suddenly it's really amazing. It felt like time just slowed down. Even though I'm riding along at a very fast pace, I'm watching as people are stepping off the curb, texting on their phones. Cab drivers are trying to cut me off, turning left. People are stopping their cars without any warning to double park to take care of business. All this stuff is happening simultaneously, and things sort of slowed down. And I had this, it was brief but very potent experience of being in the rhythm of the city. And it was quite extraordinary. I really got it. I said, wow, there's a real rhythm to all of this chaos. And that's really actually helped me be here and helped me understand the dynamic part of being alive in this city. I'm going to say next slide. Moving on, during this time, and some of you were available for my mid-year presentation, by my mid-learning cycle, I should say, I was utilizing my OP3 as a kind of the basis for my mid-year presentation. And my OP3 was where I was really consolidating all of what I had been learning about aquaponics as a viable food production system. I had been dabbling with aquaponics before I started my Gaia learning journey and had some ideas about what to do with it. So I found myself coming back to some of my original ideas. And this was my output packet 3. On the right there, this is just a little screenshot of my Mahara site. And you can feel free to, if you want, to check out my output packets available on Mahara. And this was to become the foundation for a lot of the work that I'm doing here in the city now. And it also was the beginning of my next output packet. So next slide. One day after I got in the city, I decided I was going to hit the ground running when I got here. I went on Meetup. By the way, I did not know what I was going to be doing when I got here. Specifically, I knew my intention was to engage in designing, developing food production systems, suitable for urban environments. I learned about some people in the Bronx that were doing aquaponics at a community center, and I went out there to see what they were up to and met them. And while I was there, I met a woman who was preparing food from a garden food that had been delivered from a farm for a CSA pickup. And she was educating people on how they could take this produce that they were receiving in the city and turn it into good tasting, nutritious meals. And I started talking with her and told her what I was doing, that I was a aquaponics designer and a greenhouse builder, and she said, "You've got to meet my daughter. We have a nonprofit called Harlem Seeds," and she says, "I'm going to have her get in touch with you." Well, 2 days later, I got an email from Stephanie Mack from Harlem Seeds. She asked me if I would come meet with them, and I did. I went down and met with them at the Joseph P. Kennedy Center, which is a community center owned by the Catholic Charities up in Harlem on 134th Street. And they took me up to this rooftop. You can see a picture of the rooftop on the upper right-hand corner. And they said, "We've been offered this rooftop, and we need someone to help us design a garden up here." And I looked around and I said, wow, what a great spot. The building had originally been built as a boys' club. The roof was on the 4th floor. I went into much greater detail on this project and proposal in my mid-year presentation. But anyway, I got really excited. I spent some time and actually came up with a very comprehensive design for a farm. I got someone to help me, a local guy here, to help me with a CAD rendering for the rooftop space. You can see down on the lower right, to show what would be possible. And we set out to design a small demonstration aquaponics system. And this whole proposal that I presented was contingent upon actually receiving getting some funding. I laid out some ways that could be done, and the goal was to put together a small-scale demo aquaponics system and then once we secured funding for the rest of the project, to proceed with that. What's happened with that is in August, by August had come around, my partners in this, the people who had asked me to do this, had really done very little on their end to support me in getting this done. I went away to visit my in-laws in France, which we do every year, and I came back and nobody had come to water the seedlings that I'd planted. My intention was to come back and start up the aquaponics system, put the fish in it, and get it going. So when I came back, I really had to step back, and I had said all along that it was not my intention to become a full-time volunteer for this project and be running up to Harlem every day. That my involvement was contingent upon other people's involvement. And when I realized that I was the only one that was really there to do anything, I decided not to get the system started, to step back. And I haven't given up on it. In fact, I just recently, you go to the next slide. Moving on. Meanwhile, during all this, I'm plugging away at my Gaia requirements. One of the things I'll say right now is I'm really, really grateful for the Gaia model and the flexibility that's designed into the Gaia learning system. It allowed me to make use of the pause in the learning cycle to, really to take care of my life and to make the adjustments and make changes. So I actually used that a lot. When I got to OP4, I came back to the idea of collaborative output packet. This output packet I worked on with one of my fellow Gaia associates, Daniel Brodalake, who was also in my orientation group. And Daniel, I knew, had been working on a lot of taking and learning a lot about solar, and my focus had been learning about aquaponics. I had taken a pretty intensive commercial aquaponics course from a group called Friendly Aquaponics, and I know Daniel had been studying solar, and I said, Daniel, why don't we get together and do a collaborative output packet? So we did, and the OP4 is the result of our collaboration, and I'm pretty proud of what we ended up doing. It was a good product. The process, if I could do it over again, I would do some things different. And some of the things I would have done different is I would have set a little bit more stringent parameters on time frames, on accountability. It really took a lot longer than I wanted it to. And once again, the learning for me was just fine-tuning my requirements and my values and what I really need of myself and of collaborators as far as integrity and follow-through and things like that. I think for me and Daniel, we both tend to be kind of loose around our time, and that with two of us, this thing took about 3 months to do. But we got it done, and we got good feedback. I think it's a valuable piece of work, and I encourage anyone who's interested in urban food production, aquaponics, solar greenhouse design, to check it out. Next slide. Last month, I had an opportunity to go to England and attend the Green Entrepreneurship in Action short course at the Schumacher College in Devon. I had heard about Schumacher College when I was in Findhorn about a year ago, and had a chance to visit in the summer. And when I heard about this class, I felt it was really a good opportunity for me to get some input and some support in developing my business model that I'm working on. So I went to Schumacher. Sebastian, who's on the call, attended with me. It was a really valuable experience for me. I had the opportunity to be exposed to some other entrepreneurs, particularly Guy Watson, the founder of Riverford Farms, had a very successful organic food production business over in 20 years. He's got a business that's delivering 45,000 veggie boxes directly to the consumer every week. And it was great to spend an afternoon with him and hear how he did it and see his farm and tour. We'd had great action learning sessions, great feedback. I had the opportunity to spend some time with some folks that helped entrepreneurs launch startups, and I got to present my business model and get feedback. So I came back after this pretty energized and looking forward to, digging in at a whole nother level. Next slide. Meanwhile, I had been approached by some folks who knew what I was up to that had a restaurant out in Long Island, Sag Harbor. This is, you can see this, read the full thing on my website if you go to www.thecourtroom Collaborative. I've posted the link to the press release. And I have just received my first commission paid, even up front, for my design work to design and build a rooftop greenhouse and an in-house food production system for this. It's a very nice restaurant in Sag Harbor, and I'm going to be busy with that this winter. Very exciting opportunity, and something I've been dreaming about for at least a couple of years, was how to have live food in a restaurant. So we'll be able to have vertical food growing. People can have access to fresh picked veggies in their salad in a nicely displayed way. Next slide. Your inspiration. My next steps as I move into my capstone year, I have a meeting tomorrow with, again, a second meeting with Jeffrey Rosenblum of the Acumen Capital, and I'm taking a fellow that I met along the way by the name of Dave Hazan. He's been working as the garden manager for the Doe Fund, and we're going to go out and look at the Pfizer building again. My goal is to create a detailed business plan for the first stage of my City Planet Farms, the rooftop greenhouse, urban teaching farm, cafe, and event space that we are considering making a proposal to do this at the Pfizer building. I'm going to document the Sag Harbor restaurant project as it progresses, and I'm also, while I was in the UK, one of the facilitators there, Chris Nichols, I had an opportunity to present my City Planet Farms business model to him, and this is a fellow that consults with corporations all over the world and helps them really reevaluate their core values and help them get on track. And he was very supportive, very encouraging, and he gave me the name of a woman by the name of Karen Karp of Karp Resources, who has a business that consults with food businesses and nonprofits, corporations, and a very kind of eco-social entrepreneurs. I've already made contact with Karen, and we're going to be getting together right after Christmas, actually. So this is where it's going. I'm going to end it here and open it up for questions. I'm getting close to the end here. Hey, Jennifer, how am I doing on time?
You are at about 45, 50 minutes.
45, 50? Okay.
So you're at 45 minutes.
Okay, good. Well, I'm gonna wind it up here because I'm getting to the end. I really want to share my deepest gratitude to, first of all, my wife and life partner Claudia, who's been, without her emotional, spiritual, and financial support, it would have been really difficult. She's been willing to pick up and move to Oregon, and just been just unbelievably supportive along the way, and continues to do so. Both my parents who are on the call, Jim and Jane, I love you both. You guys have always just let me know how much you believe in me and how much you support me. And I'm really grateful for Gaia University. I think that all of you out there who are continuing to develop Gaia, and it just has offered me a wonderful opportunity to really focus my life in a whole new way. And I think I know I wouldn't be where I am right now at this time without that. I'm extremely grateful to you, Nala. You've been just a fantastic advisor. You've shared your wisdom. You've given me very good guidance along the way. I look forward to continuing to work with you. And, you know, all of the rest of you and everyone you've taken the time today to just take time out of your day to be here. I hope you've gotten something from this to inspire you. I thank you for your support and your